Well, hello everyone. Welcome for our chat. I'm Jen B with AgakuraB on Just Be series of conversations. So grab your favorite beverage, get yourself comfy, and join us for the conversation today. Which Agakura, I think we're going to talk about goal setting and visioning, but in our translation of it, not the world's social translation of it. But before we start, we were talking about last time our safe spaces, and if it wasn't safe spaces, how we felt as HSPs and neurodivergence. So share with everybody what you were just sharing with me.
Oh, what I was just sharing.
A tool you had.
First of all, I've learned. So I am actually like last time I was like, why didn't I bring my tea? So I have my tea here today. Love it. Um, and what I was sharing with you is that when I was working in unsafe spaces or spaces that felt unsafe for me, one was a huge open office, which I think is something that is possibly not the best for any HSP or neurodivergent. Like listening to everybody on the phone and
Oh,
all the sensations, and I can still smell the carpet that was a bit of a funny office.
wool, musky, weird, dirty,
Exactly.
muddy.
Like office fabric, right? But what I would do was like I would set everything up at home so that when I came into the door, I would already know sitting at work, I've got my cozy sweater waiting for me. I've got this food that I'm going to have. So I would really take care of myself in that way that I knew that when I came home, I would be safe, like
Exactly.
a safe space. And I
I
would do that
relate.
also for parties I wasn't looking forward to. I would always have everything ready so that the moment I came home, I would be able to come down.
Yes, to relax. I just muted because my puppy's in here with me today. She's
So
just all
sweet.
you might all hear her a little bit. We'll see. She wants to be out with the birds and the animals and running around, so don't blame her. But
So
that's also a safe space for me is I will find a way to get myself into nature and go, okay, so after I'm working on here, or after I'm done with this, I'm going to get myself comfortable in a big old sweatshirt and jeans and head out for a walk or whatever it might be, see a friend, something like that. So, yeah, so that's our safe spaces. And hopefully you're all thinking ahead about what you're going to create for your safe space. And I'm going to put myself on mute for just a second while you tell us a little bit about what's our vision for goal setting. What's our difference?
the difference was, I think, that it wasn't going to be a whole bunch of I think goal setting for me for many years looked like a to-do list. Like this is what you have to achieve in this coming year. This is what has to be done. And it was also like in the last conversation we talked about overwhelm. Talk about finish doing that course, losing that weight. And I mean like it was just like set up for not working. And
Yes.
I think like goal.
When you say not working, you mean not attainable or not doing anything. Which one do you mean when you say not working?
Well, usually into the first weeks, it was already like, why am I actually doing this? Is it worth this sacrifice? And I'm now thinking that many of the goals were goals that I thought should be.
Oh my goodness, the expectations of others. What are they
Yes.
expecting to see from me? What am I expected to look like, do, achieve, be? Yes. So relate on that one. Oh my goodness. Yes. So um, today we're going to talk about ways you can make this work for you. And we're not going to shit on you saying you should do this, you should do that. We're going to invite you to a process of creating a vision for yourself on how it feels, on what feels truest for you. And we're going to share some tips and techniques and go along with that conversation. So if anything pops up for you or you can relate, please put it in the comments. Like, subscribe, and come on back for all of our future conversations as we move forward in this journey. Okay, so Agakura, choose things that are expectations for others. What would some of those examples be, do you think, like for you?
some a certain amount of clients or success in what I do. Like as a singer, it was always like you need to have so many gigs, you know? So start looking for clients who will hire you to sing, and so many weddings should be doing. You know, and it was like, well, hold on. But I never noticed that. I always thought, yeah, I'm a singer. I should have so many clients wanting me to perform, right? Um, that's one thing. Then there was always the weight thing. I dragged that for decades because ever
Mm,
since I was, and I think it was in a conversation with you where this came up, that I was at a doctor as a child and she shamed on me for being overweight.
yeah.
And ever since that moment, I felt like, of course, for a person with my stature, losing weight has to be on that board.
Right. So it was that was the expectation not only of you, it was created when you were a child. And so
It was,
those goals, and this is my goal for the new year, would be every year until that expectation for others was met.
yes.
And now you've processed through it and we reconnected you with some of those things. What does your journey look like now on that front?
Now it's getting clear on what matters to me.
Mm,
And also an invitation would be take some time and get clear on what matters to you. So there is a whole process on finding out your values. That is a longer coaching
yes.
process that's very
Yeah.
effective. But
We'll do that at
and
the end. We'll share some of those tips too. So stay tuned.
yes,
Don't speed through.
don't speed through. Yes. And I would still say the first step is to sit with yourself, with your journal, and think, if no expectations were put on you, what would really matter to you?
Hmm.
And the interesting thing is that with this value exercise, that you may have like a whole lot, but then there'll be 10 in the end. And when it's only 10 things, do you really want five of them to be the expectations of your mom, your dad, your aunt, your
Right.
environment? That's a lot.
A lot. It's a lot of expectations for it. Yes. So
So
where's Agakura and Jen in those expectations and in those values? And once you go through that journey and you're guided through it with different questions, you really can become oh, so you get more insights. And an example of that is I did the value exercise with Agakura, and I realized after all the process that um, being successful for me and money for me wasn't one of my top 10 values. And there's many different things behind that. So if someone's like, oh, I've got this whatever Lamborghini diet, like as a prize, go get this. You can do, if you work this, this, and this and go get it. That was never my driving force. And so I could never figure out why I couldn't do the work to go get whatever the prize was, because the prize wasn't what was important to me. So it was
yeah.
something different. And so when the other value became the prize, when the connections and the relationships, I was like, oh, I can do whatever is on that path to get to that. So as you start to create your goals, friends, step back. At the end of the video, we will walk you through those questions Agakura was just asking you again slowly, so you can kind of come up with your own list. So maybe grab a pen and paper in a second. And just you'll be able to have a little more clearer idea. But the very first thing that you probably will want to think about, that I'll invite you to think about, is to celebrate. We don't celebrate ourselves enough, all the little steps you did, everything you accomplished, even if you think it's small, like the little things in life, like celebrate it all, because celebration is the way to open and be more grateful and recognizing it so that more will come to you. What do you think about with some celebrations for you, Agakura?
Celebrations. Hmm. That's still a tough one because I think at the back of my head there is this voice that still tells me, but your life has to look like this first before you
Mm,
celebrate. But celebrations has been getting better at setting boundaries. So the other day, I had a very troubling conversation with someone who had simply just lied behind my back. And being a family member, so from my husband's family, I was more concerned about, I was hurt and I wanted to make myself heard. Um, and then I did, but then the conversation went on longer. And in my mind, it was like, well, I should have been set more boundaries and just be like, I don't want to talk more now. But then I was like, hey, a year ago, had this happened, I would have done everything for them to think good. I mean, I wouldn't even have been upset. I would have been, oh, I have to do everything to look good in their eyes. So what else can I do? What else can I do? And I stopped
Mm,
serving, pe feeding people's expectations,
yeah,
feeding into, like, if someone only likes you because you act a certain way, they don't really like you.
right. They like the action or
They
what
like
it
the
does for
action.
them.
Exactly. What's in
Right,
for them?
right. So I'm going to take this moment to celebrate you noticed it. Whether it
Thank
changed
you.
like the process of it, you noticed that's a major celebration. You noticed
Thank
it, and
you.
the next time you'll notice it quicker possibly, and then maybe even say, I'm done talking today. Maybe that'll be the next celebration.
I'm
So
done talking today. Yes, that's true. What
those
about
are the
you?
celebrations we're talking about. I mean, yeah, if you decide you're going to eat one cookie instead of two cookies, that's a celebration. It can be as
Mm.
simple as that. It can be as simple as I thought of somebody, they popped into my mind, and I reached out and connected with them. That's a celebration. It doesn't have to be like Agakura was saying, a measured, I made 30,000 phone calls and 10 whatever sales, or wrote
Ex
a book, or yes.
Yeah. What about you? What are,
Oh,
what,
celebrating.
yes.
Um, I'm celebrating that I have definitely stepped out of my comfort zone this past year. This time last year, I never would expect it to be in this place that I'm at now,
Mm.
feeling as strong as I do about who I am. I mean, that as a woman is a whole other thing to unpack, but and being where I'm at right now, I'm celebrating all the little steps I've taken to get here and all the notices. Now, I have like you, I have moments where I'm like, oh, I should have done this, this, or this, but I have a lot of notices at least that I've noticed this, this, and this, and I'm now working on it. So I'm celebrating that I have that to work on too. I have this next year to vision where I want to go and what I want to do. So yes, the little celebrations, even if I think they're small, if I just sit with a friend, like I'm sitting with Agakura now and I'm saying, but I did this, this, and it's not that important. She's my safe friend who would say, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Let's celebrate it. So if you
Yes.
are celebrating, celebrate with yourself and find someone safe who just, like we talked about in the last one, that just fills you up with that warm feeling, whatever that feeling is for you. And celebrate even the smallest things, even the
Yes.
smallest things.
And just be also grateful that there are so many things to work on, because that means that you're still around and you're still alive. And I think we've both also had losses in the past years, um, that have
Yeah.
also, I think losing a dear friend like I did in November is also like, whatever it takes to work on myself, I will do that. But I will do that also from a position of celebrating, and of celebrating that I
Mm.
still have this life to work on myself because I'm still around. It just
Yes,
it just turns a lot around with the perspective.
that's amazing. I like how you did the whole, there can be grief and celebrating together. It doesn't have to be one or the other, and it looks differently for each person. And I love the permission to be able to do that, to have that without the expectations of others. So, yes. So I would invite, so my thing for all of you is I would invite you to celebrate your small wins and start noticing expectations of others so that as you set your vision for what you want this next year to look like, um, let it be flexible, let it be adaptable, let it be growth. And that would be my invitation for you on that part.
And also, um, as we were also talking about this, it was more about how does the next year go, how is it going to look, or what do you want to achieve? It's like, how do you want to feel today in a year?
Mm.
And the way you want to feel is going to then be your guide to what you're going to do. And I think maybe it's also important. I don't know, and I would like to know that from you. As a neurodivergent person, is it actually, can it be overwhelming to think for 12 months?
Um,
Is this thing that they tell us to do, the
oh, all these
resolutions
plans
and
and
so on, is it healthy for every personality type?
for me personally, I'm not going to talk for every neurodivergent, but for me personally, I love a good planner. Someone tells me they have a planner. I'm like, oh, what are you using? How's it working for you? Because I know I need certain things for me. I have found a really good one that seems to work, and I need to order a new one. Um, and I thought, well, maybe I'll look at others, and others that have the whole year in it overwhelm my brain. My brain stops at a certain part, and like I can't see. Yes, it would be nice to have it all organized and all down on paper, but I actually work with something that's a 90-day planner. And I love how it's simple. It's got each week, it's got days, and I'll put a link in
Yes.
the thing so you guys can see it's like Savor Beauty Planner thing, but it's 90 days because my brain can focus on a goal. And like you said, how do I want to feel? What do I want to accomplish? And this planner asks all those questions. And my personality tile, there's too much for me to fill out. Sometimes I'm just like, just get me to the day and let me see what I have to do. And then there's other times I think I want to scribble and put a picture and put a little vision board in for the week because they do that for each week. I'm not that for each week. I do
Mhm.
my basic stuff, but it gives me the organization I'm looking for. And it doesn't overwhelm me with the big picture. I like a big picture idea. Don't get me wrong on that. I like my goal and I like the feeling but I want to know the activities in between to get me to that bigger outcome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm a 90-day person. I get my 90-day planner, open it up, work with it for 90 days. And not every week do I actually stay on track and work it
Mhm.
out. So how about
Yeah.
you? Are you the whole year planner or are you like a smaller chunk planner?
Smaller chunk and not even thinking, as in when something is important or is it's conveyed to me that it's important, I block myself. So when we had school sports competition, I would just, my performance was horrible because there was the teacher timing, there was a timing
Oh,
how fast you ran, how wide you threw
yes.
and jumped and so on. And it was so interesting. The moment the competition was over and I didn't get any certificate because I didn't do well, I started to run faster, jump high. So when I'm not watched or when nobody's telling me this is really important, I perform better than with that
Mm,
pressure. So that's why for myself, I try to keep in mind like where am I moving to? What is what are the things that are in my heart? So I want to um move away from teaching languages because I've done that for decades and move more into the coaching space. But I'll have that, but it's not the, and this is how it has to look and how fast, but it's just like a feeling. I
right.
want to, the energy, and I feel like this is coming to an end. So, and then my brain is active and looks for more of what I want.
Right. The dopamine hit. Oh, that helps me. Oh, that's what it just yes, I feel that. I wasn't mostly into like sports for the timing. I hated the timing and the different track things we had to do. It was the testing too. Sit down, put everything on paper that you can remember and tell me how you remember it. Oh my goodness. I don't know about anybody else, but for me as a neurodivergent, now looking back, going, you want a neurodivergent to memorize and then spit it back out. I became very good, like we talked last time, at masking and partitioning who I was at that moment because I'm like, okay, now I have to be the A student and I have to memorize. So everything else has to stop. It just definitely compartmentalizing became such a tool that I didn't know I had before, prioritizing in different ways. Um, and then the rejection sensitivity that comes. with my type of ADHD is I'll replay things. Oh, I could have taken the test and said this, or did I say this wrong in the play, or did I perform wrong in this sports? Like it was a
Yeah.
lot of what was again back to expectations. So in this new year's, since I've figured this out, my planners are 90-day, so I can celebrate the smaller things. I can see where I can tweak it for the next 90 days, and I don't feel like I'm being measured at the greater expectations because I can figure out a way to get myself there. That's
Yes.
that's where I'm at, kind of. Yeah.
It's interesting. There's also this thing where I don't know if it's definitely a personal thing, but I connect more to words than to numbers.
Interesting. So phone numbers, not your thing.
Not anymore. I used
Well,
to be
I
the
mean,
one who would memorize, but I think numbers in the context of goals. So if
oh,
I would, if for example, I was saying my goal is to have 10 gigs this year.
okay.
I would feel more stressed to see the number 10 than if I write it, TEN.
Interesting. I love that. That's
It
great.
is something where it's like, okay, the word I can relate to, the number is just like shouting at me, 10,
Yes, I
10.
feel that with you. I don't know why, but I feel that also. I would rather when I have to write something out for a goal, if it's a goal, 50 whatevers, I do like the write it out instead of the big number. Um,
Right.
unless it's a celebration. If I'm celebrating I did 50 somethings, then I will put the
Oh,
50 down because it feels more weighted. It's
yes.
strange. I'm with
Interesting.
you.
Interesting. When you come to think of the human brain, it's fascinating
Amazing.
and always like we always invite you to just leave your comments because the more we are, the more we share, the more beautiful this conversation
Mm.
is.
Just be with us. That's really what this series is about. We're being real and who we are and
Yes.
some of it will be working for you and some of it won't, and that's okay because we get to have our time together and have our chat and you get to join us. So you're always
Yes. And
welcome.
our drinks.
Yeah,
What mug do you have today?
I
I
have my
mean,
pink mug. I got to get a
this,
lot of water in today, so
but the sizes, isn't it? I mean, the European, this
yep,
is like the biggest I
European.
have, and then American. I mean, is that like the size of your face almost?
It
Yeah.
is, see? But it's a lot of water. I need to get a lot of water down. It's just when it's a day where I know I need to hydrate. So again, recognizing what my body needs, especially as an HSP neurodivergent,
Yes.
hydration is huge for processing things. So yeah,
Mm.
yeah, that was
The
pretty
tea.
funny.
Yes, I mean this we I don't
Here,
even know if I've
hold yours
seen
up to
those
the
sizes.
side. Hold yours up to the, hold yours up.
This is
See?
mine.
Yeah.
We're yeah. I mean,
Ta-da.
ta-da. There we have
Mm.
it. Now, and it doesn't reach the height of my face like yours.
No,
Like
that's a beautiful
this,
thing.
this.
It's very sad. Mine can go from like, oh, that's a really sad thing, but it's
But
all right.
it's interesting because it's one of the things that my niece also noticed because when they moved from Germany to the US to New York, she was like, some things are really just bigger.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's just bigger and it's not necessarily needed, although my water one is needed. I don't
Mm.
need a bigger burger. I don't need bigger other things, but yeah.
Mm.
That's another conversation for another day. So come back for that. I'm making a note. We're going to talk about
Big.
size variation in countries, whatever, something like that. We'll come up with something fun and
And you were in
interesting.
France and you told me about the little coffee cups, and I was
Oh,
like,
but
yeah.
I love those and I miss them because granted, earlier I did have a Starbucks and it's the big
Mm.
one, but I don't need that. I miss the little the cafes because they just are just enough with the right intensity and a great flavor. So
Yeah, so tell me, because off caffeine for a while. And
Mm,
oh, maybe I could celebrate that because I
there.
love coffee.
We
But
will
there's
celebrate that.
something I noticed about my nervous system on what it does to me. And I was
Yes.
wondering, do you notice coffee in a way where actually, like for me, sometimes it makes me feel anxious?
Yes. So that's how I know I was an HSP also is I try not to take the headache medications. I try not to take anything like extra because I will feel it and I get tingly and it's just weird. Coffee, um, it has to be a very decaf one, which I still can feel. And a little bit of caffeine helps my neurodivergent ADHD to focus if I'm not taking a med that day. But too much, and I do feel out of sorts, just a little bit off.
Mm.
And chocolate can do that to me too, sadly. So I'm very careful with what I eat. What I put into my body is very important now that I know the sensitivity of it. And there's a group I'm a part of on Facebook where we were talking about as women going into this whole change of life, which can start at age 30, I guess, um, the different ways we feel it stronger as HSPs because it hits us differently.
Mm.
Smells all of a sudden to me are just horrible. I can smell something and my husband's like, I don't smell that. I'm like, it's right there. And he gets super close to have to smell it. And I'm just standing
Same here.
away. Oh,
Yes.
smells, big thing.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Itchy. Like sometimes some like fabrics, we were talking about this, the seams. So if you see me sitting here and I'm futzing, it's because I'm feeling a little seam here, a little weirdness there. And I feel
Mm.
all of that differently. So yes, as HSPs, different things trigger me off. Coffee, yes.
Yes. I think the fabrics, I have that, and the sounds and the lights, you name it. But the really present one is the emotional one, where
Yes,
I can live through five different stages and moods in one day, or even in an hour, and it's oh.
yes. And I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know if it was part of my ADHD or not. And I just have both because I can watch a movie and I can feel what that character is feeling. It's a weirdest thing. Or I've gone to some seminars lately where I'm sitting in the room and all of a sudden I'm feeling anxious, going, why am I anxious? And I'm realizing it's other people around me. You become the sponge. And that's not always great. So you have to figure out how to do a self shield and adult. I call it a bubble. I put my grounding and bubble on. Um, so yeah, I can definitely feel the emotions. I'm going to be curious. I'm going to ask you do you ever feel I will say I have intuition when I can sense somebody else isn't quite a person that should be in my circle. You can just feel it. There's
Mm.
something, and I know there's that term out there, energy vampires, where they just drain the energy from you. I think as HSPs, we can sense that a lot sooner and a lot bigger. What do you think? How are your thoughts on that?
Definitely, we can sense that sooner and bigger. And it's not just the energy vampire, but there are people you know that are going to, at some point, cause you trouble. Like there'll be trouble, there'll be drama, it's just something, even just the way someone talks, but I'm not saying what they are saying, but the way their face looks when they're talking. And
For example,
Um, for example, there are people who will make like sure you get, like these the ooh, and I was like,
I'm feeling all that with you. I'm like, oh, not mine. Or
oh,
they give you the apology that's not an apology, and you're going, I
oh
didn't,
yes,
no.
yes, or um the how would you say, like I was saying before, that person that was talking behind my back, they apologized, but making sure that I knew that they actually apologized because it had come to my ears and I was actually getting it wrong and I actually didn't know what the conversation was about. Where we after that, I shared it with my husband and we both went, but it couldn't get more clearer than that.
That's the, what is that? The not apology apology. Like, sorry that you felt that way. That's your problem. Like
But
we
actually, they're sorry that I found out. They're not
right,
sorry.
that's really, they're not really sorry for their behavior. They're sorry you found out, which makes them look bad in the other person's viewpoint.
Yes,
Not
yes.
necessarily they were concerned about how you were feeling.
No, not at
Ah,
all. Not at all. And so there are many people where you just feel if this stays, that there will at some point be this situation. And I think if we use that, if we learn to use that to advantage, it could also be, especially because you said um, in our previous conversation how HSPs and neurodivergent people find themselves opting to be entrepreneurs. If you sense that someone as a client is going to be trouble, and you will sense it because
yep.
they don't just ask you, they ask you in a very demanding and titled. So how do I know this? How do I know you're going to, if someone says, how do I know you're going to do a good job? Do
What's
you
something
want
we can do?
running behind them or what do I get for free? Like there are certain
Oh
people you
yeah.
know you don't want it as clients, and if you go for them, they will be the headache clients.
Yes, and I'm gonna play the other side and be like, they could also be the learning curve for you. That might be the point where you go, okay, I'm going to set my expectations up front with you. So if you ask me that question, I'll say, I'm not sure. How do you think you'll know that I will help you? And let me write that down. How do you want this to look at the end? And I would write that down. And then I would give it a few times and then say, here's what we've talked about in the beginning. Here's what's happening. And I think we're good to go. So I will probably, yes, I can definitely say those are people I don't wouldn't want in my space if we're talking safety and vision and goals and celebrating, but it's also a learning thing. So if I miss it and they become a client and I go, oh, I should have seen that, I will know as a learning for the future.
Definitely. And it it is a learning that after some time may become tiring. I remember I
Yes.
went to this venue where this lady wanted me to perform at her restaurant. And her, how do you say, what she expected from me, her condition was that I perform for free at a brunch, and then if people liked it, I would get a paid gig.
Interesting.
Some things that already like, and
And you
it,
went, huh?
yeah, and the energy was more of I was one of her servants, and and in the past, like when I look back in hindsight, I could have known how this was going to go by how she was treating the people at her restaurant, how she was treating the personnel, because for
Yeah,
her, I was one of them. It
right.
was very rude, cool, and so on and so forth. And I remember it being my dad because there was a she was to confirm whether I would get the performance or not. And I was like, Dad, I know I have to do this work because I mean I need the money, but I feel miserable. And my it was actually my dad who was like, he just walked up to me and he's like, you've been miserable all day. Why don't you just cancel her? If this is how you feel, and I
Ah,
did that, and the moment I did that, it was like that energy was
mm.
no longer in my body. But that is like that has been a teacher where I know that I'm not the kind of person just close your eyes and get through it. I'm going to live that experience to a point where
Yeah.
whatever you pay me will not be enough to actually compensate for
And
what I
heal you after the fact.
and heal me after the fact. Yes.
Wow. What a brilliant man. Very good that he saw it and very good that you listened. So celebrating all
Oh,
of that
yes.
too.
And I think coming from my dad, because my dad is the no matter what person, like
Mhm.
I used to joke, like, does my dad actually sleep in a suit and a tie? Because
Well, when we're little,
there's
that's what it looks like.
never saw him in his PJs, and he was like he went to work the day after his mom died and sent us to school. So hearing that from him also interesting. The
Um,
person who had put that pressure on me all my childhood, that was like a permission, like I set you free. Just live, just be.
right. I don't want to see you miserable. You need to be
Because that was
happy.
not my dad of my childhood. That would he would have said, "You're going."
You made, and so for me, if I make a commitment, I show up.
Yes,
And so I'm very careful what commitments I make these days. As I've learned, I will show up even if I didn't want to. So having that permission from your dad that now you get to choose is a beautiful blessing also.
it
Wow,
is.
it just okay, so we're feeling other people's feelings. We're processing them much differently and much deeper and much more in our body. Like the last conversation we had, we talked, Agakura walked us through the VAK. If you missed it, check it out. I'll try to put the link in the description for us. But where you feel it in your body and how it affects you that moment and into the future, as we just heard with Agakura. So, um, as you know, with an ADHD brain for myself, I can take us on lots of different rabbit holes. I can go, let's go this way. Let's go over here and talk about this. I'm going to bring us all back to goal setting and visioning because the new year is going to be here. We're going to hear everybody else talking about um, what they're planning on doing. You're going to hear all the jokes. You're going to see all the memes. I set a goal and I already lost it and didn't do it. Like we're going to see all of that. So how can we help you? So Agakura, what would you encourage anyone who's watching or commenting and joining us to do at this moment?
For the new year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's always difficult, right? Because I try not to give advice. But as you were saying, the memes and everything, I feel that one of the big wins that's going to help me is that I removed certain applications. I'm not going to say the names from my phone. One
Mm-hmm.
starts with F and one with I.
From your phone. Doesn't mean you're off of them. It just means you have to purposefully, intentionally sit down.
And log in from my computer with my
Okay.
name and with my
Info.
email and my password, and sometimes it's just not worth it because those are places. And I had a conversation about that with my eldest niece who was like, I removed um these apps from my phone because they were causing me to be anxious. I'm like, right,
Mm,
14 years. I mean, those apps are made for the young generation and they're having anxiety. So that's one thing I would look at because the comparison is one thing that actually may keep you from pursuing the things that will make you feel the way you want to feel at the end of the year
right.
and to doing it the way you want to do it. Because here you are and you've set up this is how I work well, and this is how I function. And then you enter this app and someone is like, it's 5 a.m. and I'm at the gym. And there you
Oh,
are questioning what you had actually planned for yourself and the way it worked for you. So I think the comparison, and it happens a lot around social media nowadays, is a good point to start when it comes to actually looking back at the next year going, that looks like me. Like if someone was to read you the story, you'd be like, yep, me, my
mm-hmm.
story,
Mm-hmm.
my way. And you would feel it's aligned. And also finding out what really matters to you.
Yes. And that's very important for the new year. So I will agree with all of that. And I will invite you all to take a moment and figure out one thing you're hoping to align with. I love the distancing from social media and those expectations. And what else can you do for yourself? Maybe ask yourself, so is this healthy for me or am I feeling this way for it? And with each thing, just notice. I would encourage you to notice. And I am setting up goals and I am setting up affirmations and different things for the new year, but that's my way of how I want to do it. And it's going to be my type of goal and my expectations. So that is still okay. If you're a person who needs the structure and the here do this and here do that, and I need to measure up to this, then you do what's for you. I'm always telling people, you do you. As long
Mm.
as it's not mean and cruel and hurts somebody else, then you do you, be you. That's what we're supposed to be in this world. So,
Exactly. And sometimes it's interesting. For example, I was thinking, um, what really matters to me is to connect with my mom as often as possible. So we do that via WhatsApp. The other day, she was so funny. She was like, "Oh, now I heard your audio well. Normally you're talking so fast." I'm like, "Mom, did you maybe hit the double speed button?" So we would do that. But if I think like one of my goals for 2025 would be to see my mom,
mhm,
then it would probably help me to do the things that will lead me to be able to see her
right,
because there's a purpose, a higher purpose
right,
attached. It's not just achieve those numbers in my business, but the higher purpose is mom. So
right,
my invitation would be look for the highest purposes you have.
right.
And then because sometimes we start with the I want to earn this. Okay.
Mm,
But if it's just to do that, it's easier to find yourself not committing. But
right.
if there is maybe something attached to that, I want to earn this because I really want my daughter to go to dance
Yes,
and to go to piano lessons, and I want to see her happy, or I want to my child to enable my child to study because for many parents, I imagine um, it's the kids, the
it
best
is.
kids. And if the higher purpose is
It
your kid,
is.
then you will find yourself. It's
Yes.
actually easier because you're like, just imagine my kid at being able to go to drama school.
Right? There's a lot of, and that's using your children as a reason, not an excuse. And so that's a whole different mindset also. So it's just a mind shift of going, oh, I'm doing this for them. And I want to do it because of whatever the goal is. So, what I would also invite you to doing is ask yourself this question, well, why is that important to me? Why is that important to me? Until you get to a point, well, why is it important to me that I earn this thing? Because my child, blah, blah, blah. Well, why is that important to me? And you keep asking yourself till you get to a point where your heart goes, it's important to me because I want to be the best mom that they can look up to and see me as a good human being. And when that hits, you know you have a pretty darn good goal for the year. And it doesn't have to be deep, it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be measured at whatever the world capitalism wants you to measure it. And I'll throw that word out there and we'll probably get a whole bunch of trolls on that one. But
And I love how you just made this gesture, like ask yourself why until your heart goes, because another invitation would be involve your body in your goal setting because if your body is like tightening and closing when you're writing one goal, it could be that we
telling you,
it's like your intuition, your gut feeling. So really see which one of the goals really you feel like they warm your heart, whatever sensation it is in your heart. Like
mhm,
I totally connect to the kung because sometimes it's really like there's something opening up.
yes. Or it's just a full on hit. Like you get this arrow going, yep, that's why. Because a lot of times we all stay up here. I do. I'll
Yes.
think through it. I'll think all the expectations. I can do that. I can do that until I get to my body, and my body goes, that doesn't work with me. That's not where we're supposed to be going. So,
Mm,
yes, just like Agakura said, invite yourself to notice body and mind. And we work a lot with that in our coachings too. So
mm,
definitely check out our links. And if you're interested, reach out, leave comments below. We'll get back to you and figure out what works best for you. So in the new year, the invitation is to find some path that you're currently on that feels right. We talk about embodiment all the time. When you say we talk about it a lot. And
yeah.
what will help you move forward into this new year where you can celebrate, recognize, notice, and grow. That would be my
Mm.
invitation.
Yes, definitely. And I just wanted to add, I mean, I mean, you're so brilliant in, like you bring up, you really, you just said, when you just said the head, I was like, I was thinking the head goals are probably the ones, how to distinguish head and heart goals.
Mm.
The head goals are the ones where you would see certain people nod and clap. Maybe
Yes.
your surroundings. The hard goals are the ones where people maybe like, I don't even get the sentence how she's putting it. Like my hard goal is just mom. And some people would be like, mom, what? But I know what I mean.
Love
And
that.
a head
Oh my
goal would be
gosh.
a head goal would be a sustainable income that is so eloquent. Excellent English. Sit down.
Beautifully said.
Hey.
I like how you've measured it. There's little steps to it. And great. If that's for you right now where you're at, do that. So you do
Yes.
you, remember.
Ex
However, and take it that little further and how's that feel in your body?
How exactly? How's that feel? How does that feel when we allow your heart into that space? Because your heart
Right.
is where your dreams live. Your heart is where your essence lives. Your head is our heads help us. They're amazing. I wouldn't want to go
Hmm.
head through my life without the head. But the head sometimes does not really know us the way our
Right.
heart knows us. The head
Oh,
has information.
right.
But the heart that really is like, this is you. Like you do you is
Right.
here.
Yes. And you were, as you were saying that, I went, okay. So for all of us that write down, some people might do New Year's resolutions and you write them down. I did that for a few years and then I just realized out of sight, out of mind for my brain, I couldn't remember what I'd written down. So for me, my goals go, and I love these things, and you're all going to laugh again. If you've been watching me enough, you know I love post-it notes. My goals are going to be on post-it notes, a simple word phrase like mom, like Agakura was saying, and I will put it in places where I'll see it on my mirror, and my monitors, maybe down on the fridge, and just a couple just to subconsciously remind me this is what I'm working for. And then if I've already done the journaling, maybe you've done do journaling, or you set out your planner, then you'll subconsciously already know the steps, like you were just saying. You get it all up here.
Or
Here's what I want to do.
yes. Or maybe I've left myself messages. Like go on my recording app and leave myself a message like I would leave to a friend. And
I
then
love that
oh,
idea. I might have to do that. Or even call your friend like Agakura and say, hey, could you leave me this message?
exactly, exactly. Well, I have a friend where sometimes I'll record an audio and be like, this is for me. You can listen to it, but it's actually
I love that idea too. Okay, I'm taking a
it's
lot of
like,
ideas
of
here.
course, I keep it for you. I'm like, okay, thank you.
I do that with my if I'll go through and I'm doom scrolling, all of a sudden this meme will pop up. I pebble my close inner circle a lot. Pebbling means I send memes to really important people if I see them and I think of them. Um, and I just realized what that term was just a few months ago. It came out. This is what pebbling is. I went, oh, cool, that's what I do. But I'll send them a meme that I want to be able to see later. And I'm like, thinking of you, but this is also for me.
Yes, yes, that's true. That's true. I do that too.
Yeah.
I have pebbled you too, because it was like, oh, this is really good. It's
Yes.
been part of our conversation, and I'm sending it to Jen, and I'll know I sent it to Jen, and then I could go.
Right. Because sometimes I will screenshot it or save it or whatever it is. And I'm like, I have no idea where I put that. And I go through and
Yeah.
try to clean things out because that's.
Yeah. Oh, guys, we don't want to let you go, it
I
seems
know.
today.
I know today we're like, we're just going to keep talking about 2025. It's coming. And are we ready? I don't think so, but we'll get through it and we'll do it together. And I always love to look for a word for the year. This past year, my word was grace, and I gave myself a lot of grace and other people grace and situations grace. So it was for me, that's what that was for me. Learning grace for myself.
Yes.
This new
Oh,
year, I haven't figured out what my word will be. It'll pop up at me and I'll share it with us in our next conversation, maybe. But it's a fun one too. Instead of having a resolution, I come up with a word or a theme for the year. And it's been pretty good the last few years trying to figure out and just it's always something that helps me to be a better person in growth.
hmm.
So,
I'm going to write that down. It's interesting because I know it's also partly because it rhymes, but the moment you said grace, what came up for me was space. That's what I want to give myself. Because
oh,
it was like, I was like, yeah, it's rhyming, but then it was like, no, no, no. It's really what space,
ah,
space to think, to feel, to be, to grow, yeah.
mm-hmm. And for those of you who are wondering what the word of the year is, there's lots of things you can Google on that out there. I'll put a link in the description of
Hmm.
one that I use, and feel free to take it and let us know in the comments what your word for 2025 will end up being. And if you're looking at this after 2025, well, put the date down and tell us what your word is for that year.
Yes, definitely.
So I think this might be one of our last recordings for this year together, but watch for Just Be and our series. We'll be doing more coming up in the next couple of weeks, celebrating with our family, friends, and just we'll be back to talk with you guys soon.
Yes. Take care
Take care, everybody.
and just be.
Oh, I love it. Just Be.
Bye.